Hey, hope everybody is doing all right. Let's go through this week. Our schedule is a little different depending on if you're in Group A or Group B, and that's due to the weather that came through at the end of the last week. So just pay attention to these dates because it might be different for you. Group A, ignore me, block me out for the next minute or so, just talking to Group B here. So Group B, Thursday group, you know that we did not get to take the midterm because the school was delayed opening on Thursday, so the college was closed when our test was supposed to be. So basically we are making the lab midterm up this week. You will come in person and take the lab midterm this week. Lab 6 is what we were supposed to do this week, but I'm shifting that to online. There's a video, you can watch it and you can do that. Just like we did Lab 5, the photosynthesis lab, you're just going to watch videos and do that from home. So what that means is no one's going to be meeting in the lab for Lab 6 this week, so the lab is open on Tuesday and Thursday. And what I wanted, Group B, I wanted to give you a chance to pick your lab day. That way we can spread out and there won't be as many people in the lab at the same time. All right. So the way this works, I have sent you a message on Blackboard, and most of you have responded already. But on that message, if you'll read it, it's going to ask you, would you want to take the test on Tuesday, that's going to be March 23rd, or Thursday, March 25th. So if you haven't done this already, just check your Blackboard messages and then respond to me and tell me which day you want to take the test. Most of you have already done this. I'm still waiting on like 3 or so students. So if you haven't sent me a message yet, just make sure you do that as soon as possible. All right. I need to know quickly, so like by Monday, if you're going to take the test on Tuesday, let me know. And if I don't hear from you by Tuesday morning, obviously you're just going to have to wait and take it on Thursday. All right? Okay? I think that's got it. So now, everybody pay attention now because this applies to everyone. For everybody, Chapter 11 is the genetics chapter. I'm not trying to like overhype it or anything, but Chapter 11 is my favorite chapter that we do because so far we've been talking about like cells and things that don't affect us. Cells definitely affect us. But like in your day-to-day life, you don't really think about your mitochondria or nucleus, even though they are incredibly important. It's not something we really think about. The genetics chapter is cool because in this chapter, we're going to look at the traits that you have, what determines those traits, how those traits can be passed on to your kids, and even things like how your parents' traits were passed on to you. This one's really cool. This one's like, and you can like do some reasoning and figure out what potential traits your kids might have when you go through and do this lecture. So I like this one a lot. It's a little bit longer, but we've only got one this week, so that's the good news. So pay attention to it. It's really neat, but there's a lot of important information that's crammed in there. All right. So watch that as soon as you get a chance. It's over in the Learning Materials tab, and I've got it broken down into several different parts. There is a Chapter 11 review quiz, which is going to be due Sunday, March 28th. All right, so just make sure that you take that after you've watched the lecture video. And then finally, this is for everybody too. So originally in our schedule, we had Lab 6 scheduled to do this week. It's on mitosis. Now, in a normal semester, what we would do is we would come in and I would have like the microscope set up for you already, and we would just walk around the room and look at a bunch of different cells that are in the different stages of mitosis. So we would look at a cell in interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and daughter cells. And it's a pretty good lab when we can do that. But because of COVID this semester, we have to stay spaced out. We can't be sharing microscopes. Like eye membrane being shared from one person to another is not the best thing to be doing right now. So last semester I tried to do this lab in person. The problem was all it ended up being was students were sitting there and you were trying to find the parts of the cells, but it's really hard to do. Honestly, like even for me, it takes a while to do it. So what I ended up doing was just on the projector, like projecting cell slides, and everyone did their drawings based on that. So if you're just going to be looking at a screen and doing drawings, you might as well do that at home and save some gas money, basically. All right, so there's instructions on this. Just number one, make sure you realize that you are doing this from home. You're not going to attend lab to do Lab 6 this week. If you go to the lab tab to the left, I've kind of rearranged everything. So up top, there's a folder that says Lab Videos. Click on that folder, and then there's another folder that says Lab 6, Mitosis. Click on there, and that's where you're going to find the videos. Just a couple things to keep a heads up on. There's 2 parts to the video, so make sure you watch both of them. The whole thing, seriously, is like 25 minutes. It's way shorter than if we tried to do this in person, all right? Part 1 is where you're going to find all the introduction material, and make sure you watch it because that's where you're going to find a lot of your answers to the review questions, all right? And then at the end of part 1, we'll start doing the drawings. Part 2, you'll finish up the rest of your drawings. All right. So I'm not looking for like really nice artwork. I'm not hanging anybody's cell drawings on my refrigerator at home. So like, don't spend a ton of time on this, but it should be recognizable. When I see your picture, I should be able to recognize what cell and what stage of the cell cycle or mitosis it's in. All right. Number 2, when you do these drawings, there's going to be 2 or 3 things that you have to label in each of these drawings. And if you watch the video, it's going to tell you to do that. Like, I'm even going to show you where those structures are. So it's going to walk you through this really nicely. But just make sure that you do your labels. I've had some students that just draw it real quick and send that to me. If I don't have labels, I can't give you full credit. So just make sure that you are paying attention. And maybe even before you submit it, double check and make sure that you have labeled everything you're supposed to, because that's where a big chunk of your points are coming from for this lab. All right? Okay, so you'll watch the videos, you'll do the lab. It's pages 63 through 65 is what you're going to fill out. And then this week, because we're not going to meet next week because of spring break, so I've got another way for you to go ahead and just send this to me. That way I can get it graded, and you don't have to hang on to this for 2 weeks, because that's just asking for something to get lost if you've got to keep it for 2 weeks. All right, so, excuse me. At the top of the lab videos folder, there is instructions for submitting your labs. All right, 2 ways, and I'll give you the quick version, real easy. First way, you can just get your phone, take a picture of those pages, make sure it's close enough that I can read everything, but take a picture of those pages, and then you can just email me those pictures. cedmondson@gadsdenstate.edu. My address is on those instructions too. Another way, if you wanted to do this, and honestly, this is just kind of cool to have on your phone, there is a Dropbox app, and that Dropbox app gives you a really easy way to make PDFs out of pictures that you take. So what it'll do is you'll take pictures of 63, and then you'll hit a plus button, 64, 65, and instead of having 3 different files to send me, it's going to make 1 PDF out of that, and you can send that as an attachment. It's really easy, and like I said, it comes in handy sometimes too if you've got to send something to someone. You can scan several pages in 1 PDF. So anyway, there's my infomercial for the Dropbox app, but there's a way that you can do that, and there's instructions are there if you need that. Okay, so either send me the pictures through email, or you can use the Dropbox, and once you make your PDF, send that to me through email. You can also, if you do the Dropbox app to make a PDF, you can send that to me through a Blackboard message. Blackboard is only going to let you send 1 file at a time, so I wouldn't do the pictures because you're going to have to send like 3 different messages. It's going to blow up my messages in Blackboard, and it's a lot of work. So just read through those instructions. If you run into any problems, if you have any issues submitting it, let me know, and I'll help you out with that. Okay? Have a good weekend. I am an idiot, so I signed up for a 50-mile race tomorrow, March 20th. So if anyone sees me early next week and I'm limping, that is why that is. So it seemed like a really good idea at the time, and then I've run like once in the last month. So anyway, that's it. See you next week for Group B. When you'll come in, you'll take the test. I'll see you next week. Group A, make sure that you send me the lab, but I guess I won't see you until after spring break, so have a good spring break.